We have people do all kinds of crazy things to get customers taken care of, and I know a lady was in the checkout line at Walmart and her debit card wouldn't work one day, and a lady that runs our debit card department got the cash out of her account for her with the customer's permission, of course, and drove that to Walmart and delivered it to the customer. I mean, we just do whatever it takes to get the customer taken care of, and I think that's unique in today's banking environment.
Last night, and I want to address these issues. I want to address some of the questions that came up last night, and before we leave, we also have a single sheet of paper with all the questions and comments that were made last night, and we'd like to distribute that to you. Some of the questions that were asked, one individual said that we've got drought conditions, now is not the time to move forward for this type of a development. Obviously, economic development program really has nothing to do with the weather, and they really shouldn't be tied together. Putting together a sound economic development program is one thing. I think this city has done phenomenal as it relates to reserving water rights and getting ahead of the power curve in connection with that. Having said that, all of the things that we're talking about as it relates to streetscape, downtown design standards, as it relates to the stadium itself, the plan at this point in time is not to have grass, but to have turf. All of those things that obviously help from an environmental sustainability. Traffic management was a question that was asked last week at the local government corporation, and I know it was asked last night as well. And traffic is something that when we start looking at these particular assets and from a coordination, having different time of day uses, where events are not all getting out at the exact same time, and particularly when you have a game starting at a particular time, people don't just show up at that time. There's more of a steady flow. But also with some of the things we've talked about as it relates to traffic management, one of the things that we would be doing as we move forward is creating a traffic impact analysis that would need to be done. I know the city would require that, and that would be something that we would do to make sure that we ensure that traffic does not adversely affect this community. Security, homeless, panhandling. This is something that we've seen in other communities that we've been involved with. In Waco, as I mentioned before, when we first got involved in Waco, everyone said you're going to lose your shirt. Do not invest in downtown. There's an unwritten rule. If you go downtown, you will be robbed. Incoming freshmen at Baylor saying, don't go downtown. And as I said this before, and I don't mean this in a flippant way, but crimes against people, you actually have to have people there in order to commit a crime upon them. There was nobody in the downtown Waco area. And it really was truly one of the safest areas, but there was a perception of crime. There were panhandlers, there were vagrants, there was a great deal of graffiti, but through the Public Improvement District, there were a number of programs we could create to enhance the security, to make sure that we worked with Sherwin-Williams to get paint so that within 24 hours of graffiti appearing, it was gone. And the paint contract that we have with Sherwin-Williams is the type of paint that you can wash the graffiti off. And after a while, people get frustrated and it just stops. And those are the things that we have seen in the Waco area, and now it's the place to live. And just in our assets alone, whereas before we started there were only about 40 people living there in the downtown area, now there's over 600 people just in our two multifamily, or not really multifamily, student housing and loft over retail developments that we have. Amarillo Performing Arts Group, last night there were some folks that were there that addressed the issue of we want to make sure that whatever is done, that it does not adversely affect the arts. And we feel the same way. There's a concern that with an increase in some type of a ticket fee, that might reduce the patronage, and also the increase on the rental charges, that might eat into the bottom line of any of the performing arts. As Jared and I were talking about this particular issue this afternoon before tonight, we look forward to sitting down and talking with all the arts, because that is not our desire to adversely affect any of the arts or any of the renters that are here. I think you know what we're trying to do is we're trying to reduce the gap, because at this point in time, all the citizens of Amarillo are funding that deficit, and we're trying to be in a position that how can we reduce that now? But we look forward to meeting with the performing arts folks. EB5 and New Market Tax Credits, there were questions about EB5 as it relates to the fact that it's coming from a private individual that is investing $500,000 And as part of an immigration program that's been around since 1991, there were questions of, number one, on an appropriation standpoint, is this something that Congress is going to continue to renew? Dan Healy with Civitas will address that in a moment, but the answer to that question is yes, this will be continue to be renewed. At the same time, there were issues about, well, are these immigrants going to come into Amarillo? Is it something that's going to affect our education system? Is it going to affect Social Security? Is it going to affect crime? And I will tell you that the average net worth of the EB5 investor that Civitas has is north of $8 million. These are individuals that have businesses that are trying to get a green card so that they can continue to come back and forth between their business, whether it's in South America, whether it's in Brazil, whatever the case may be. And then also the new market tax credits. There was a question of, is Congress going to continue to renew this? The dollars that we're talking about have already been appropriated. There's about $9 billion of funds that have been unallocated but have already been appropriated. Those are the dollars that we're going to be focusing on, that we'll be securing for here. So we don't have a concern about those programs going away. Economic development dollars, many people have said, well, why are we doing this project? Why can't you use this same money on the Civic Center? Or more importantly, why can't you use these same dollars to, and I realize it's an ordinance against potholes, there are 0 potholes in Amarillo, but assume there was one. Why can't you use these dollars to repair a pothole? These are, number one, economic development dollars that by law cannot be used for general fund obligations. Secondly, out of $113 million, over $70 million of this is private investment capital. And if I were to go back to that slide that showed all these revenue streams, the vast majority of those revenue streams could not be used for those other type of needs that a community has. Our goal is to, how can we use this as an asset to draw people into this community, additional enhanced convention and visitor bureau type of activities that enhances sales tax so that the city has enhanced revenue streams, that it can use that capital, use that revenue as it will, as you determine, whether that's for public works, whether that's for civic center type activities. And then last but not least, there was a question of that I just don't see how this can be done without all of this debt being on the city's balance sheet. And obviously you've got your own financial advisor, we've got our investment bankers, and as we've gone through this, the only debt that is out there basically is being refunded out of those revenue streams that we talked about. It's not based on the full faith and credit of the city, period. Some of the other comments that were made, this is just an example. Some individual indicated that we're in a recession and a drought. If you use it, it's going to use more water. Actually, the comment was the place is going to dry up and it'll be a ghost town in 20 years. What will you do then? This is not going to be a ghost town in 20 years, and what the city has done to ensure its water resources in the future has been phenomenal. You only post positive comments that support the project and won't post the negative ones. Yes, we do. The comment of 8-0 here in Amarillo to do. We shouldn't do this project. People want to do things. They should just go to Oklahoma City, Fort Worth, or Albuquerque rather than to build it here. This is an economic development weapon, and this is another weapon in the arsenal of economic development tools that the city should have. We shouldn't think too big and do this all at once. We should only do one project first, and we should start with the Herring Hotel. And then the last comment was, I don't think the city should be using EB5 and bringing immigrants, which will only increase our crime and qualify for Social Security. I've already covered that particular issue. There's a number of positive comments that were made as well. Generally speaking, the people that we have spoken with want a revitalized downtown sector. So goes downtown, so goes the entire community. And as we continue to focus on these type of enhancements, this is a wonderful city. And I've seen so many examples of when the economy got difficult, when places got shut down, this community didn't step back. It basically leaned into the storm and took advantage of the opportunities. And that's exactly what we're recommending.